Welcome to the BEASTwriter family where social media engagement is encouraged. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we are going to continue my NFL draft grades on 32 NFL teams as it pertains to the NFL draft. Now, before we go ahead and get started, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for subscribing to my channel. Just be sure to turn on and flip on the bell notifications so you get notified when I go live or when I upload content. Also, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel, but like all my stuff or like all my videos, please be sure to do so in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and break it down. Today's episode is specifically staying in the NFC South. If you watched my earlier podcast on the Carolina Panthers and the Denver Broncos, I'll include those draft grades in the can't even talk today in the description box below, so you can kind of see what I had to say about those picks in hindsight. Also in real time, if you wanted to go back and see my live streams, 4-hour live streams on days 1, day 2, and day 3, you can go ahead and check that out there. So without further ado, we are specifically talking on this podcast as it pertains to the Atlanta Falcons. We're not going to waste anyone's time, and we're going to be talking about making sense of the Atlanta Falcons reaching for need, diminishing the value pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Kicking it off with Ty and Kyle Pitts. I know you love these tickers. All right, Kyle Pitts, he was drafted number 4 overall in the first round. And again, he was number 2 ranked player on my big board heading up in my pre-draft analysis. Kyle Pitts is a generational talent for a number of different reasons. One, I view him more as a wide receiver than as opposed to a tight end. And to simply put it in perspective is because, well, that's how he's going to be used at the NFL level. I mean, you don't draft a guy number 4 overall just to be a simple inline blocker. If that was the case, you would have drafted tight end Tommy Tremble out of Notre Dame, who went off to the Carolina Panthers, right? So if you're looking for a true tight end, Kyle Pitts is not a true tight end. What he is a depth piece that you can move around and a chess piece that's going to create mismatched nightmares on the second level and third levels, respectively, because, again, what Kyle Pitts brings to the table is something we have never seen in the NFL. And when Mel Kiper says that he has never graded a tight end this high in the common draft era since doing and running grades, that speaks volumes about what Kyle Pitts really is. He's a generational talent. And a guy that size, at 6'6", 240 plus pounds, who runs a 4.4 40-yard dash and translates that onto the field by killing my team, Alabama, in the SEC championship game single-handedly, where they almost lost that game, you can kind of see where Kyle Pitts is trending. Now, again, what Kyle Pitts brings to the table is a guy who is going to create mismatched nightmares. What I mean by that, well, he's too fast for linebackers. So again, he's going to take the top off the defense in terms of going down the seams. And he's really going to find the soft spots in zone coverage, because at the end of the day, the quarterback doesn't have to throw the perfect throw because he has a big catch radius. I mean, 6'6", 245. His arm length is crazy long. So or crazy wide, I should say. So you know what you're getting with Kyle Pitts, a big red zone target efficient tight end / wide receiver who you can move around pre-snap recognition and do a lot of window shopping with him. So Kyle Pitts is too big for cornerbacks, so he can box him out down inside the red zone, and he's too fast for linebackers. So that creates automatically a mismatched nightmare with defensive coordinators. Every time they have to face a guy like Kyle Pitts, they're going to have to game plan specifically for him on a certain number of plays. So Kyle Pitts, what he brings to the table, again, he's going to be the security blanket down the seams in this pass happy NFL for quarterback Matt Ryan moving forward. So a nice play by them. They get an A grade for that selection. No-brainer choice. Now let's move on to the second round. This is where it kind of gets dicey for me. Again, if you guys remember, in the second round, I'm just kind of holding back here, the Atlanta Falcons held favorable draft position sitting there at number 35. They opted to trade back 5 spots with the Denver Broncos, yielding the 4th round pick, number 114 overall, in exchange for getting a guy like strong safety Richie Grant. When you're missing out on a guy like Javonte Williams, if you watch my earlier podcast on the Denver Broncos, you would know that the Denver Broncos shot up the draft board in order to take Javonte Williams because they were hoping that Atlanta Falcons would not view highly of him, or that they would trade for him. All it took was a 4th round pick, and that was a smart play by the Denver Broncos and new GM George Paton working a deal with new GM Atlanta Falcons Terry Fontenot, because in the 4th round, logically, who's going to be there? I mean, this draft class is weak sauce, and the depth is just not there in this year's draft class. So giving up a 4th round pick, George Paton wins this trade because, again, he gets Javonte Williams when I thought the Atlanta Falcons should have won ahead and got Javonte Williams. And if Javonte Williams was not on the board, but he was, and let's say they traded back, well, you missed out on other top-tier talent. You still needed an offensive center because Alex Mack is now with the San Francisco 49ers. So you had your choice of the cream of the crop, if you want to say, in Landon Dickerson out of Alabama or Creed Humphrey out of Oklahoma. If not at the offensive line, okay. You have a new defensive coordinator in place with Dean Pease, and you have a 3-4 base front defense, transitioning from a 4-3 to a 34 front. So if you were looking at it from that standpoint and you need pass rushers, why not get the best interior pass rusher from the 3-4 defensive end position in my guy, Roll Tide Roll, defensive end, Christian Barmore? He is a lot higher value than Richie Grant. Landon Dickerson and Creed Humphrey are a lot higher values than Richie Grant at 40. Javonte Williams is definitely a higher value than trading back 5 spots for a guy like Richie Grant and picking up a 4th round pick in return. So again, this was a needs-based pick at number 40 when they moved back 5 spots. And ultimately, they didn't even get a guy like Asante Samuel either. Let's just bring him into the equation. So all these players were ranked higher on my big board, but then they opted for a guy like Richie Grant. This was simply a needs-based pick. And again, when you reach for need, diminishing the value pick, that's not going to bode well in my grades. So in a sense, I do like Richie Grant. I'm not saying he's not going to be a good safety. I just don't think that he was the best value safety in terms of the draft position and whether we're selecting moving down 5 spots from 35 to 40 with those other players that I just mentioned that were still on the board. So if you were to tell me if I was to put a grade ball on it, if I was to label a grade on this selection, I think it was a need-based pick, diminishing value pick. So ultimately, the Atlanta Falcons get a C grade for drafting Richie Grant in the 2nd round. All right, now let's move on to the 3rd round, right? Doesn't get much better here. They went ahead, just pull up the ticker here. They drafted Jalen Mayfield, an offensive tackler / offensive guard out of the University of Michigan in the 3rd round, number 68 overall. All right, he played right tackle at Michigan, but he has questionable arm length, which leads me to believe they're going to kick him inside the guard. Anytime you draft a guy this high and he's an offensive tackle / offensive guard with questionable arm length, odds are in the NFL, you're going to project him at the NFL level to be a guard. And with Caleb Farley, their team's 1st round pick, manning one side, and you have Jake Matthews handling the blind side, well, you really don't need Jalen Mayfield to be an offensive tackle. What you need is to solidify that left guard position because you have Willie Wright sitting there, and Willie Wright is not very good. He, simply put, I don't know what else to say. He's just not good. So that's why they drafted Jalen Mayfield, hopefully to add camp competition so he can take over for Willie Wright in his rookie season. So again, what I like about Jalen Mayfield is he has prototypical size as a drive blocker. Now, he's not going to be the best in space, so to speak, but he does add value in the in run blocking support. So what you'll see from Jalen Mayfield is he's going to be a stout down in the trenches and moving and drive blocking his way to success in his rookie year. I fully expect that to happen. I think he's going to take over for Willie Wright because Willie Wright is not very good. But again, sitting there at number 68, although they had a need for an offensive tackle / offensive guard, I get it. But again, you already missed on Javonte Williams at 35. Why not go after his teammate in Michael Carter, sitting there at number 68? Again, Michael Carter is just as good, in my opinion. Well, I wouldn't say just as good. Javonte Williams is a little bit better, but Michael Carter is no slouch of his own. So I thought Michael Carter should have been the pick here. Ultimately, they didn't go that route. They need a running back, and they opted for reaching for need, diminishing the value pick in Jalen Mayfield once again. I think what happened here, guys, is they were looking at the vertical board and had Michael Carter ranked higher than Jalen Mayfield. But when you cross-check that against the horizontal board, as I like to do in my earlier live stream, so you guys can kind of explain to you guys the value board versus the vertical board or / big board versus the horizontal board, and you cross-check it, and then you go in the war room, and then you discuss exactly who the selection should be made and which player that pick should be made on. I think there was some discussion there because, again, Michael Carter's ranked way higher than Jalen Mayfield, but on the horizontal board, you have, well, based on my horizontal board, I had in the running back position, you have Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, Michael Carter. And then the offensive linemen, obviously, I have Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater, Elijah Vera Tucker. And then you pick your poison as a fourth one. It could be Tevin Jenkins. It could be Jalen Mayfield, whatever the case may be. But those guys were sitting neck and neck when it came to the horizontal board. Ultimately, need trumps. Best player available. Michael Carter was obviously probably ranked higher, but they went for a need-based pick. So again, anytime you reach for need, you diminish the value of the pick. That's why I give Jalen Mayfield's grade a solid C, because again, they needed a running back. Which brings me to our fourth round pick, Darren Hall out of San Diego State University, cornerback drafted in the fourth round, number 108 overall. Again, this is another needs-based pick, guys, because they missed out on who? Cornerback Asante Samuel in the second round, trading back from 35 to 40. They still got him at 40, and they didn't. So with him off the board, what happened? Well, they opted for strong safety Richie Grant instead. So again, they go for need instead of best player available. Anytime you do that, again, you're diminishing the value of the pick. I keep on saying this. This is what the Falcons did consistently throughout the rounds of this Terry Fontenot's first draft, and that doesn't bode well for him, because when you do that, what happens? Well, they could have had who? Ramondre Stevenson out of Oklahoma. He would have been a solid, better pick, in my opinion, over a guy like Darren Hall, who has some upside as a capable boundary cornerback, but he's not fundamentally sound. His technique needs work. And although he has natural ball hawking ability, from what I've been hearing from my sources over at San Diego State, they agree. They say, Ramondre Stevenson would have been a solid, better play. And who ended up getting Ramondre Stevenson? Oh, go figure, the New England Patriots. Oh, who went out and got Christian Barmore, who I said that the Falcons maybe should have had, dropping back from 35 to 40 because they're switching to a 3-4 base front. And the New England Patriots run a 34 base front. Who did they get? Oh, Christian Barmore. So not only do they steal two of the higher rated players, but they were picking up lower in the draft. So they were just picking up on the Falcons' misses, basically. So if I was to grade this fourth round pick on Darren Hall, missing out on Ramondre Stevenson, again, it's a needs-based pick, and I would have to give him a solid C. All right, now let's go ahead and break it down a step further, layer by layer, as we get to the core. All right, so let's just go ahead and talk about the other picks behind them. All right, so again, I just mentioned that they got in the fourth round Drew Dahlman, offensive center, number 114 overall, from trading back from 35 to 40 with the Denver Broncos. He may or may not make the roster, borderline at best. They missed out on Javonte Williams. That would have been a solid, better play. But anyways, let's move on. They got defensive tackle Taquan Graham in the fifth round, number 148. They got defensive end Adito Ogundeji in the fifth round, number 182. They got Avery Williams, cornerback, in the fifth round, number 183, using the shotgun approach. And then they picked up wide receiver Frank Darby in the sixth round, number 187. So again, these guys are probably not going to make the roster. Why would you trade back 5 spots and pick up a guy like Drew Dahlman when you're looking at your pre-draft or your mock draft board, knowing that a player of that value would be around at that selection? So odds are, can he make an impact? I don't think he will. Prove me wrong. Well, that's it for today. I just call it how I see it. I like GM Terry Fontenot. I think he's a very bright GM. I think the future is bright with the Atlanta Falcons. However, he really messed it up in the second round, going after a guy like strong safety Richie Grant. Now, I'm not saying Richie Grant's not going to be a Pro Bowl player or even a solid starter, right? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there's better valued players. And you see the teams drafting behind them, look who they picked up. They picked up the same guys that I thought that they should have picked when they were on the clock. So they did lose valuation at the top of the draft with draft position. So pick your poison, take a stance. This is what I see it. And again, if I was to grade the Atlanta Falcons draft grade overall, they would get a C grade by me, because Kyle Pitts saved this draft class single-handedly. Generational talent, can't go wrong with that. So that's pretty much it for today. Drop your comments and let's talk football, guys. If you liked my analysis insights, be sure to hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. So Falcons fans, what are your thoughts? BEASTwriter family, what are your thoughts? I love engaging with you on this platform. Please leave your comments. And again, welcome to the BEASTwriter family. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care. BEASTwriter out.